Welcome to the Board of Commissioners special called meeting, our work session for July 28th, 2015. We have several items on the agenda for the work session today, and we begin with tab 1 in Board Transportation Agency. Director DeMassimo, one item is to provide information on the concept plan for design of the I-285 multi-use bridge. Morning.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, how are you, sir?
Well, thank you.
I would like to ask Scott Giroux, who's the project manager and senior engineer with AECOM for the design of the I-285 multi-use bridge, to join us up here at the stadium and provide the presentation.
Good afternoon. Thank you. My name is Scott Giroux. I'm with AECOM. I'm pleased to say that I'm a resident for 21 years at Cobb County, and this is our second really exciting project. We also did the Soap Creek Bridge replacement on Paper Mill Road. But I'd like to talk today a little bit about the concept on the multi-use bridge of I-285. The project, as you know, goes from the Galleria on the south side of 285. It will span over the Galleria Drive as well as 285, with connection up to Circle 75, as well as a bridge over Circle 75 into the SunTrust Park development. As you know, the Cumberland area is one of the major economic engines of Cobb County. We have over 14,000 residents, 24,000 employees, and over 1 million visitors per year in this area. So this bridge is going to benefit all those users, not to mention the additional users that will come with the continued development of the SunTrust Park development. It also serves as a regional connector, this bridge will, because it's a multi-use bridge. It's going to serve both pedestrians, bicyclists, as well as potential transit routing. And as you can see by the general trail map that we have on the screen there, the red dash right in the middle next to Cobb Parkway is our bridge that we are working on, and it's going to connect to Circle 75, as well as it has near connections to the existing pedestrian bridge over Cobb Parkway at the Cumberland Mall. As a general overview, you'll see on your left side of your screen, that is the Galleria, or the southern portion of the project area. The bridge is going to launch from that Galleria deck in that corner and launch straight across as a single level bridge across Galleria Drive, across 285, with connection up to Circle 75, as well as on the right side of your screen, you'll see a label that says a wall supported section. There we actually have the profile or the level of this bridge and structure will split, with half of it going up to meet a bridge that will go over Circle 75 on a truss bridge. We also have the at-grade connection on the lower portion of your screen, the tan-colored line. That's for the transit vehicle, as well as there's a sidewalk there for direct connection to Circle 75. So the bridge cross-section itself, inside of the parapets, is 32 feet wide. We have a 16-foot pedestrian, and it's a multi-use, so pedestrians, bicycles can use this. 16-foot area separated with a 4-foot buffer. That buffer from the transit, the 12-foot transit lane, will be a combination of, depending on where you are on the bridge, we'll have a planter, landscaping. We have sections of bollards, which is going to provide emergency access for emergency vehicles from the transit area to get over to the pedestrian section. On the south side at the Galleria area, we've been in extensive conversations with all the stakeholders. In particular, on the south side, we've met with the Galleria. We've also met with Childress Klein, who owns Galleria Drive, as well as the office buildings back in that corner of the southwest quadrant of the 285-75 interchange. So we've had extensive conversations with those stakeholders about our pedestrian tie as well as our transit tie to utilize this deck as our landing point on the south side. Here is a possible enhancement we're looking at for the Galleria deck. As you can see in the central part, that pink area, that is where the transit vehicle could travel. And we have on both the top and bottom sides pedestrian ways. We're trying to be as flexible as possible with our design to accommodate all the users with access to the Galleria as well as any future development. We understand the Galleria is considering some modifications and some enhancements, including a potential hotel right in that triangle area on the lower left corner. So we're trying to work with them to accommodate their pedestrian flows and as well as their vehicular flows, along with our bridge itself. So this is a possible solution we're looking at. We're not saying this is the solution. Really, we're focused on the connection at that deck to get across 285 to accommodate the pedestrians, bicycles, and transit vehicles. So on the north side, just to the left of the screen, would be 285 and the exit ramp to Cobb Parkway. You see the two different colors there. The brown would be the pedestrian travelway. That's the 16-foot pedestrian area, and the tan section is the transit way. That you'll see a thicker yellow line in the middle of that section. That's where we begin our split profile. So the brown portion on the top side of your screen would travel upgrade to ascend to the elevation of the truss bridge, which will then cross over Circle 75 and tie into a building as part of the SunTrust development and access the whole development. On the lower portion, the transit bus goes up at a separate profile and ties in directly to Circle 75. You can kind of see the flow arrows. We've been in conversations with the circulator bus to make sure our design accommodates their needs. And from what we understand at this point, that circulator bus will travel north across the bridge, take a left onto Circle 75, and then a right onto Heritage Court, which is in the upper right portion of your screen. And then it will do the reverse flow coming back. Due to our constraints with the SunTrust development, they own that parcel you see on the north with the green grid, which is a future parking deck. We've had extensive conversations, and they're allowing us basically 40 feet of right-of-way. So that's kind of limited some of the things we could do, and that's part of what's driven the fact that our 12-foot transit lane is just a single lane, and the bus will travel in both directions on that lane. However, from our circulator study team that we've talked to, they're anticipating buses every 15 minutes during the busy times, possibly every 10 minutes. So there should be ample gaps to get a bridge across or get a bus across the bridge without conflicting with an oncoming bus. As well as we're going to incorporate a set of gates at each end to control to make sure a bus doesn't inadvertently access the bridge while there's another bus on the bridge. So here's a cross-section of our split profile. You'll see on the left that 16-foot way is ascending up to the Circle 75 bridge. On the right, you can see our transit way and a sidewalk to also directly access Circle 75. We anticipate that because this is really serving all the office buildings, the commercial, the entertainment, we anticipate there'll be people in the 900 building on Circle 75 that are looking to get across the bridge, and rather than have them take the staircase up and then ramp down, we wanted to provide a sidewalk to allow them direct access from Circle 75 to our bridge over 285. And this is a potential rendering we have for the staircase system at the north end at Circle 75. In your lower left corner of your screen would be where Circle 75 is. The bridge you see, that will be a truss type bridge. This was an earlier rendering that did not include the truss bridge, but this is essentially a nice experience for the pedestrians to take a break. We have a water feature, stairs to get you up, as well as an elevator for ADA access. This is a potential idea we have for that quadrant there at the north end of the bridge, but this is still under development as well. So our next steps for the project are to continue our outreach to the stakeholders. Their plans change all the time, and we're trying to accommodate their needs as well as our needs, which is to basically get the pedestrians, bicycles, and transit across 285. We're going to continue with the environmental documentation. Pending your approval of our concept, we'll go begin the conversations with GDOT to get properly permitted to install the piers over 285. And then we'll follow that up with full engineering, design, and construction documents. And that's my presentation, so I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Scott.
Sure.
Commissioner Ott?
In some of the timelines that we've seen out there, it says that the completion of this bridge, based on design and engineering being done by this fall, would be September of 17, which is almost the end of the first baseball season. Is that correct?
We're unsure right now. We know it's drifted a little bit because of our extensive conversations with the stakeholders. That's taken a little bit longer to negotiate how we're going to land in their property and get those agreements in place. So that slid our schedule out. We're still looking at how we can make up some of that time, but at this point, we're still working on
Now, is that
actual
a
schedule.
total completion, or will the pedestrian part be done sooner?
Well, okay, if we were to go back, maybe we can go back a few slides to the overview. One more, right there. So, of course, the primary structure we want to get done over 285. We would construct both the transit and the pedestrian part at the same time. It's one structure. So that tie to Galleria deck, as well as getting across to the landing on the north side, is what we really want to focus on. The thing that could take longer is the Galleria deck itself. Part of that is we understand the gallery is in conversation with some developers about the hotel itself, and that brings with it a whole set of challenges as far as how do they want their front entrance to look, where do they want buses to access or cars to drop off. So that's the type of thing that's hard to nail down a schedule at this time. So, but we would want to build the main span over 285.
Okay, that kind of leads into some of my next questions. The rebuilding of the parking deck. What is the estimated cost of that, and is that part of the cost of the bridge?
We are still evaluating both of those. The bridge, again, has to do, we can come up with the general structure, but we want to enhance the pedestrian experience. All those conversations for the experience itself have yet to occur. We've been dealing primarily with the location as well as the core structure. Again, we want to accelerate the schedule. Part of that, and part of, I'll step back a little bit. I know there was discussion about a 2-level bridge versus a single level. And again, to get through the GDOT approval process, we knew going with a more traditional style bridge to get them to accept what we want to do and minimize that schedule. We've pretty much focused on a more simplified bridge. Now that will be enhanced with time, which affects your overall cost, so it's hard to say at this time.
Okay, now you mentioned the stakeholders, but it seems so far that the stakeholders are the people that own the Galleria Authority. On the plans, and I think let's go back to the one that shows the possible road, and one more, I think, that one right there. But, okay, so we talked about the stakeholders, the people that own the property, but on this right here, it would seem to me that one of the largest stakeholders is the citizens that are going to use the bridge.
Absolutely.
This is an active parking lot at the Galleria, and first off, looking at this diagram, the cutaways that you show the transit on the right-hand side and the pedestrian on the left-hand side, but
That's
both
correct.
this end and the other end show just the opposite.
The
Well, it
cross
shows-
sections are cut as if you're looking north across 285 towards Circle 75.
Okay,
they
so
should
we're
match
looking
into
at them
that.
from behind? Because the way they're
it's
depicted in,
perspective.
well,
Let's
that's
go
why
to-
I'm asking, because on the slides,
Right here?
yeah, right there. So what you're saying is this is looking from the Galleria?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. All right, so back to my other question, if we can go back to that other one, Brad, right there. How do you propose, or what is the discussion about how the citizens are going to get from either the sidewalks on 41 to this without just kind of walking through the middle of a parking lot?
Right, in the upper left-hand corner is where the bridge, the existing pedestrian bridge over Cobb Parkway is. And it comes down a set of stairs, and you can kind of see in the shadows a lighter color band. That's kind of the walkway. There's a couple of walkways, actually a little further down.
So they still would have to walk across the parking lot to get to this.
Yes, and that's part of what we're talking about with the Galleria. You know, the authority, because they're concerned about the flow patterns. And we understand that, as well as if there is a new hotel built in the bottom left corner, that's going to affect the flow patterns of pedestrians as well as their loading and unloading. So that's why I'm saying this is a tentative rendering. We're still in conversations with them. And on the south side, it's also Childress Klein is another stakeholder we've been talking with. They own Galleria Drive itself, as well as all those office buildings. So we've had multiple conversations with more than just the authority.
So the really only concept that you really kind of can tell us about is from where the bridge, not the approaches or the approach on either end, but basically where the bridge actually crosses the interstate. That's the only thing that's kind of set.
And tying into the Galleria deck. Now, how we flow across Galleria deck can be worked out. That's not a critical path issue, and again, we're conscious of trying to get this project done as quickly as possible to try and get back to first pitch. One of the things is that's a detail. You can go back and restripe the parking lot or add landscaping at any time. That's not a hard thing to do. The hard thing to do is to get through GDOT, the actual structure that crosses the interstate. So we focus for the concept. We've had multiple concepts up to this point, and dealing with the stakeholders, the best agreement we could come up with is the actual physical tie at this corner of the deck. How the transit crosses there, how the pedestrians cross there is yet to work out, but that doesn't affect advancing through the DOT process, the permitting of the bridge structure itself, which is critical path. That's what we're focused on right now.
All right, that's all the questions I have.
Thank you. Commissioner Burrow.
You, in the cross-section part, the 16 feet for the pedestrian
Yep.
and bicycles, you're gonna have a designated lane for bicycles? Because I'm not an engineer, but I wouldn't think you'd want to mix people walking with kids and bicycles.
We've
Passing
discussed that. We have not nailed down exactly that arrangement. There is plenty of room in that 16 feet to designate a dedicated bicycle lane if that's what the county chooses to do. Again, that's
I would
another one of
think-
those flow type issues like I talked about on the Galleria. The structure itself is what we've really been focused on so that we can get through the DOT process. We can definitely have further conversation about, and with other outreach, whether or not we dedicate a bicycle lane within that area, but there is ample space.
Okay, and where the area starts on the south end for the Galleria, where is the parking gonna be for that the Braves are leasing or the patrons will be?
Can I address that, Scott? Scott, let me, as of today, there is no intention of the Atlanta Braves to have parking on the inside of 285 at the Galleria. There's no agreement been made, there's no conversations being had. There is no anticipated program where parking will be encouraged. As of today, there's no encouragement for parking on the Galleria side as a parking option to supplement the parking that'll be provided elsewhere. As most folks know, the Braves are in the middle of their developing their parking plan, which is taking the entire area into consideration. But as of the latest indication I've gotten from leadership from the team is that there won't be parking on the inside of 285. When she's finished, I'll go back to you.
Okay, so the bridge would be primarily for the office buildings, the hotels, Galleria, people staying there or at conventions there or whatever, to walk across to avoid getting in the sidewalk and vehicle traffic on 41.
Absolutely. That is a nightmare to try and get pedestrians across under 285 on Cobb Parkway. So this provides a much safer alternative for pedestrians in the general area to get over 285 without having to mix with all the congestion on Cobb Parkway.
Okay, and I just have one other question, and the 800,000 for the design that was approved originally for the design of the bridge. The final concept is part of that, so there's
Yes.
no additional cost going forward if this is approved tonight.
That's part of the standard, package that we go through.
Director? No, not completely.
So, Commissioner, there may be some additional costs associated with final design, but as for all of the concept work and the presentation of concept today, that fully includes all those costs. And to Commissioner Ott, I think, Commissioner, to sort of clarify one of the questions that you asked as well, what this does today is the presentation identifies the concept. Some of the questions you were asking are final design kinds of questions with regard to the routing of pedestrians and circulator and so forth, and that would be identified in final design, but wouldn't necessarily be a part of concept.
Commissioner Ott?
Well, where I'm going with that, because it seems, based on my questions and Commissioner Burrows, that the beneficiaries of the bridge, and the Braves have told me the same thing about the parking that they told the chairman. The beneficiaries are basically the Galleria, because all the residential units that are on 41 are down the hill past Acres Mill Square. There's, other than the Sheridan Suites, then we have the Waverly, and then if there's a new hotel in the Galleria. So the reality is the bridge really is serving the Galleria and some folks from Childers Klein.
There's also residences on the north side, up just past SunTrust Development. There's all kinds of new residences in there. Any of those folks that want to come to Galleria or Cumberland Mall, they can all utilize the same facility.
Right, but they're going to have to, all those residents, they're going to have to walk the circumference of SunTrust complex to get to the bridge.
Unless they get on the circulator bus, right.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's satisfying the circulator as well.
Yes, may I?
Commissioner?
Thank
Yes,
you.
of course.
One of the things you mentioned was that the transit or circulators would go one way. And is that primarily because of right-of-way acquisitions or cost?
It was the space limitations that we had with acquiring right-of-way on the north side.
And that right-of-way was owned by the Braves?
Yes, that parcel that we're getting it from is owned by the Braves. Right now, it's a big mountain of dirt. I don't know if you've been out there lately. It's right between that and the parking deck for the 900 building, which is to the east. Their ramp system that goes down, we're tucked up against their ramp, and they allowed us 40 feet, a 40-foot strip down to 285 there.
And I'm
So that
assuming
kind of-
someone has looked at it, make sure that they, I know you mentioned that the timing would be such, but it just seems to me while we're building this thing, we might ought to build it for the future. And the future of me would be 2 lanes.
That would be optimal. It was a constraint of the right-of-way that really put
And
us
that's
where we're
nothing
at.
that can be worked out, in your opinion?
That, I'm not handling the right-of-way negotiation, so I couldn't speak to that.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Sure.
I don't disagree with you about trying to get, and Faye, this may be more a question for you, about getting pedestrian traffic from the south side of 285 to the north side, okay? But it seems to me that a significant portion of the cost of this bridge is trying to get the circulator across. With the queue jumper lanes and everything else that's being proposed for 41, why do we need to have the circulator going across the bridge when it could just as easily, and we'll go back to the pedestrians that is Scott, right?
Scott?
Yeah, that Scott was talking about on the north side of the park. For them to use this bridge, they're going to have to take a circulator down Circle 75, get off at the stop that would be at that plaza, walk across the bridge. Well, the circulator could go just a little bit further across under 285 on 41. So what is the rationale for spending the additional money to be able to put a circulator across this bridge?
As you're very aware, Commissioner, the traffic conditions in that area particularly and on 41 generally are pretty unreliable, heavily congested conditions. And even with some of the improvements that are not yet made but may be made, the circulator operating in mixed traffic still puts it in mixed traffic with a far less reliable trip and so forth. The connectivity of these activity centers is, in our recommendation, best served by having both the pedestrian and circulator elements to move the visitors, commuters, and employees around, and it is it's not just about connecting in one direction, it is still about connecting in both directions, especially when you think about what the potential is in this area for the future, and a lot of that, of course, is still unknown, but nonetheless, lots of opportunity there.
Has there been any cost comparison between creating a dedicated lane, either for events or ball games on 41 for a circulator type system versus the cost of building a bridge across 285? Has a cost comparison been made between the two? I understand what you're saying, and I know I've been over on 41 enough to know that yes, the traffic can be unreliable, but it seems, you've told us many times about how the Q jumper lanes work and how it favors the buses and all that. So has a cost comparison been made between coming up with a dedicated pathway for circulators on 41 versus the circulator going across the bridge?
We haven't done a direct comparison like that for this, sir. I think we probably have some other things that we could pull from and look at that.
Anything else? Thank you very much. We look forward to the presentation this evening.
That's it.
Thank you. Moving on to the second tab, support services. We have one item from Ms. Sharon to present information regarding the Cobb Commute Web Map application for displaying traffic conditions in Cobb County. Ms. Stanley.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, County Manager. I'll be assisted this afternoon by Ed Biggs, who is the Division Manager for the Technical Operations Group here in Cobb County. This afternoon, I'll be presenting a new web application map for displaying traffic conditions in Cobb County called Cobb Commute. We put a copy of a flyer up in front of you that you can also, anyway, sorry. We put a copy of a flyer up in front of you that you can also look at as we go through this demo. Cobb Commute is a collaborative project between the Department of Transportation, Information Services Department, Communications, and our vendor Arcadis that began as a response to Commissioner Ott for a request to look at providing road construction information during the upcoming Cobb-Marietta Water Authority project in District 2, and quickly expanded to include providing information on county-wide road closures and near real-time traffic speeds. Today, Cobb Commute shows road construction and traffic conditions on local roads, live information from the Cobb County Department of Transportation's Traffic Management Center, and Georgia DOT 511 information. Our goals for Cobb Commute included making the web application easy to use, minimizing the number of clicks needed to access information, and providing a modern, streamlined, and optimized user experience compatible with multiple operating systems and browsers, and with fast performance and rapid refresh times. There are two versions of Cobb Commute, the map application. There's a desktop and a mobile version. Users might call up the desktop version prior to leaving home to check out the traffic conditions before they depart. You'll see the desktop version displayed up on the screen, and it has a blue background. This allows you to quickly distinguish the desktop version from the mobile version, which has a green theme scheme. We have used standard navigation tools to zoom in and to zoom out, as well as to allow you to input an address and search on the address. On the desktop version, we have two views. There's also a persistent legend along the bottom of the page. The first tab is the road status. You'll see that up on the screen. In the road status view, there's a sidebar for impacts and incidents. They're sorted alphabetically to make them easy to find. Impact areas are larger scale, high profile areas with planned activity that could impact commute times. Incidents or restrictions and closures are shorter, smaller scale activities and work that may also impact commute times. If we look at the impact area, you'll note our first impact area is the Cobb-Marietta Water Authority project we just spoke about earlier. Notice that as we hover over that impact area, it's displayed on the map in the blue. If you can just do that one more time because it comes up very quickly. Selection of the project actually zooms you into the impacted area. Note as we zoomed, you also get more information if you click on the information icon. Note as we zoom that more data becomes available on the map. Georgia DOT 511 changeable message signs are displayed giving you travel times. Cobb Department of Transportation coordinated with GDOT to include Georgia DOT 511 data for interstates in Cobb Commute. The desktop version also provides a link to 511. Notice that you are taken, and as it displays, to the location that you were just looking at in our Cobb Commute web map application. And if we can exit that. The second view, or tab in the desktop view, is traffic speeds. The source of the data for the traffic speeds is Georgia DOT for interstates and Cobb DOT Bluetooth for our arterials. We'll move on over to the mobile version, so if you guys can switch over there, of Cobb Commute. The web address for both of these is the same. It is cobbcommute.org. The web application it detects the screen size of the device and automatically calls up the relevant application that you would use. Note the green color scheme. This is showing you that you're on the mobile version of the map application. The navigation is the same except for the address button has been replaced with the My Location function. If you click on this, it will actually locate you and the map follows you as you go. The same sidebar data you saw on the desktop version is still available from selections at the bottom of the screen and the bottom of the map. This was done so that we could maximize the real estate on a mobile device. You'll see on this you also have, at the bottom, you have your closures, your impacts, your legend, which we don't display on the mobile device because we wanted to conserve space. And then you also have the link to return to your map. If you go over to the left, the link to return to your map, the left, yeah, right there. You'll notice that that's where we are. The selection that you're currently on will be highlighted. You see that's in orange or yellow depending on your screen. That is actually will display the current screen that you're on here. You'll see it displays the map because we are on the map screen. To show you some of the functions on the mobile site, Ed's going to zoom into a location in the Marietta area. You'll see we have icons here. Your cone actually represents construction restrictions. Click on the cone. You can select to move to see more detail about the construction. Did you get it in? That's not the cone. That's not a cone. Yeah, there we go. You can select to see more detail. Or you can also zoom in to get a closer view. As we zoomed in, you'll see also that views from traffic cameras become available. And I'll let you click on and show you. So you'll see that we have the traffic cam views also. Road speeds are displayed on the map in red, yellow, and green. And it'll move over to a location where we kind of show some of these. There we go. We have just completed user testing of this product that included a diverse group, including Cobb County employees as well as citizens. Comments have been very positive, and we think we've accomplished our goal of providing a web application that is intuitive and easy to use that will provide our citizens with real-time, up-to-date information on road construction and traffic conditions. Additionally, at the recent ESRI user conference, DOT was able to have Cobb Commute reviewed by one of their user interface experts. The only recommendation they gave us was to change the return to map icon to the universally recognized home symbol, which we will do prior to releasing this to the public. We will be working with communications to publicize and make Cobb Commute available to citizens in early August. As we continue to enhance Cobb Commute, we are discussing possible future enhancements, which include detour routing, partnering with the Braves for a game day button, and possibly a Cobb Walk function. So this concludes our demo. So thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. I'll answer any questions you have.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? Commissioner Weatherford?
Sure. I was playing with the app and missed part of it. but,
Shame on you, though.
yes, was, but the 511 road signs are not on the mobile app, correct?
No, sir. They are on they are on only the desktop version. They're so you can kind of look before you leave home, and then we'd expect to, once you get out there, to be on the road and actually be able to see those.
Okay, well, I was looking, thank you.
Thank you.
Great
Any other
job,
questions?
by the way.
Commissioner Ott?
I just, first off, I want to thank Sharon, all your folks, and all the folks at DOT. You guys did a yeoman's job in putting this together. And the Braves were excited when we met with them. We've shown it to them. We talked about integrating this into their application. The Braves have an application that when you show up at the stadium, it kind of tells you all the stuff that's going on. And one of the things Braves talked about was parking, that their plan is that any of their deck parking will be metered so that, for example, you can come into this app and if you're coming from Roswell, it'll tell you what route to take. And then when you get to the stadium, it's going to say go to the second level because there's parking spots there. As Sharon mentioned too, some of the other enhancements that we've looked at is detour routing. Because all of our roads do not have Blue Toad, one of the options we talked about is inputting 3 different detour routes and then just have it on a time basis, switch from one to the second one to the third one and then back to kind of meter the traffic. Some people say, well, why didn't we just use Waze? Some of the things that we found with some of the other products that are out there, for example, like Waze, it's user input and it's a time limit on how long the information stays in there. What's unique about this is totally controlled by our traffic management center. All of the information that goes out on the Commissioner's Friday updates, that's what creates the traffic cones and the closures. So the idea was that with the Friday update, folks, if they head out of town, they'll know what's going on the next week, but then when they get back to the airport or they get back into town, they can go to this and see, okay, well, here, this is what's really happened, and see what the traffic speeds are. So just want to say thanks for a great job.
Commissioner Burrow?
I know you said this, but when will it go live to the public?
In the first part of August. We haven't determined the exact date. We're going to be working with the communications department to make sure we get publicity kind of out to let people know.
Okay. Once it's live,
Yes, ma'am.
will you let us know so we can put it in our weekly newsletter?
Absolutely. Yes, ma'am.
Thanks. Great tool.
I have to ask this question because it tis the season for Cobb County, budget implications. You're doing this all within your existing budget?
Yes, sir. This is, we took some of the money that we had in information services and then DOT added some, so we have so far. Now, as far as, I think we'll be looking at the same things when we do right now. Unless, as we go further, we may have to come forward as we do some of the enhancements that we're looking at. We've been coordinating with some of the other agencies who want, for example, walking paths on there, right? So we'll be looking at those within some of our existing budgets. But I don't know going forward what additional features we'll end up putting on there. But one thing about this is it goes very well in hand with my, some of the initiatives we have for e-government coming up in 2016. So
Which are not funded yet.
some of them are funded through the SPLOST.
Okay,
So,
got it.
yes, sir.
Okay, I just want to make sure that, Mr. County Manager, that
Right.
if there's any anticipated costs
Yes, sir.
associated with this deployment,
Right.
that we know about it before we approve the FY16 budget, not
Yes, sir.
in October FY16.
Right. We'll work with DOT to look at our future enhancements and see if some of it require additional funding.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Good job, thank you. Thank you. That takes us to tab 3. Yes, ma'am. This is our quarterly update for the 2011 Special Purpose Local Option Sales Tax Program. From our Parks, Recreation, Cultural Affairs, Transportation Facilities, Public Safety, and the City of Smyrna is with us today.
They are, sir. Mr. Chairman, County Commissioners, and County Manager, we are pleased to present our quarterly update on the SPLOST. Where we are in terms of projections, our receipts at this time is our receipts have exceeded projections by, as you can see, just over $32 million. We're about 41 months into collection. And today we welcome Eric Randall, the City Engineer of City of Smyrna, to give an update on Smyrna's SPLOST projects.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
Good afternoon,
And
sir.
I'm looking forward to giving this update. The last update that we gave on the SPLOST was to the Oversight Review Committee last fall. So hoping to pick up some of the new progress that we've made since then. Overall, our budget is 41 million and change. The bulk of it, as you would expect, is transportation projects, and then we're split evenly between parks projects, public safety, and Keep Smyrna Beautiful projects. And moving on, we have a total of 18 projects in the 2011 SPLOST. 50% are under construction. We've completed 39%, and we're still in design on 2 of those projects, 11% of it. And moving into probably the highest profile one that's just wrapped up is our Concord Road project, which I have to opine, I'm glad to see come to an end on construction. We wrapped this up this past June. The contractor's working through some final punch list items. But the scope of the project was a landscape median, a multi-use trail, and decorative lighting. That median really was necessary for left turn safety movements. And it has certainly affected the traffic patterns, but in the time since it's been under construction and then fully opened, I'm seeing more and more adaptation as I drive the route and observe the traffic that's out there. As people are coming to terms of, we've changed the traffic pattern, but if they're looking to get to a particular destination, accommodated through the U-turn movements and so on. There was, as you would expect, some pushback at the beginning and some concerns, but I've really seen it smooth out in the last month or two. As I said, the project was substantially complete this past June, and we're working through the final punch list items. Project that we finished up actually last summer was the Ward Street improvements. And Ward Street was a 4-lane with a narrow sidewalk in front of Campbell High School, and it connected Powder Spring Street to Windy Hill Road. There is a roundabout, which is the connection point for the Belmont Hills connector, getting up to the redevelopment project at Belmont. We did an analysis of the traffic to start the project, showing that we could easily do a lane diet, bring it down to 2 lanes of traffic. We've got a very wide median landscaped through the area and a very wide multi-use trail. And we're really finding it's effective for the walking students all through Smyrna Heights and that area getting to the high school. And other infrastructure projects we've been doing. Reed Road was a culvert that was at the point of failure. We had identified this early on through regular inspections, and it was a full replacement of the project under Reed Road. There were some minor local traffic delays as we're working through this project, but overall, it came off without a hitch. We were very, very happy with the results, and it is certainly planning for this project was stressed when you look at, I'm actually going to skip a slide here. What's our next one? I'll come back to that. I'll come back and I'll show, we've got a Gann Road project, a Gann Road culvert replacement that's underway a little bit later and I'll talk about. So if you can go back to Windy Hill. Yeah, there we go. Coming up, it's starting the Windy Hill Boulevard concept in the 2011 SPLOST and really carrying it over to the 2016 SPLOST is the Windy Hill improvement. It's a boulevard concept from South Cobb Drive to Atlanta Road that includes 4 express lanes. You can only get onto those lanes from either South Cobb or from the Atlanta Road end, and it will carry the through traffic through this corridor. And then we'll have 2 local lanes on either side for much more neighborhood feel, access to local residences and businesses in the area. This is a joint project with Cobb County. If I recall, for the 2016 SPLOST, it's a $38 million budget. In this, it's a $4 million budget for some of the design and preliminary work. And we're working really, really well in partnership with Cobb County on this, making sure we keep this project eligible for any federal funds that may become available. Currently, it is funded, this scope is funded completely with SPLOST, but should the federal funds become available, we want to make sure we're still qualified for that if there are additional scope items that we see would be warranted and could be funded that way. So we're going through the environmental clearance process at this time. The first part of this project is currently underway, and this is intersection improvements at Windy Hill and Atlanta Road. If you've driven through that area, you may have seen there's a new traffic signal on Windy Hill, kind of in front of Belmont, that's under construction, and people wonder, how is this accommodated? This project will pick that up with a multi-use trail with actually bicycle lanes on the roadway itself and intersection and drainage improvements through the intersection. The other big project that's really ramped up pretty quickly is Spring Road improvements. Scope of this is to install a landscape median, multi-use trail on both sides, both the north and south side of Spring Road, electronic overhead signage, and decorative lighting from Cobb Parkway to Bell Drive, which for reference is where the racetrack gas station is on Spring Road. This is also, we're teaming with Cobb County on this one to synchronize the traffic signals. We currently have an ATMS project underway to bring fiber optic connection to all the traffic signals and back to a traffic control center at Public Works. We're taking that a step further and putting adaptive traffic timing, signal timing, into the Spring Road corridor from Jonquil Drive, where Rev Coffee is, to 41. And this will allow much, much better coordination between us and Cobb County, especially on game events, but it'll also help optimize the time that we have during regular commute hours. So it's serving a couple of different purposes, and we're excited about bringing that one forward and working together on that. This Spring Road improvements, we're adding the additional lane, and the intersection improvements goes to bid this fall with an anticipated let for construction either December or January. If we can get the utilities relocated, it's about a 6-month construction project, but utilities are always the questionable point. A couple of bridge rehabilitation projects we have. We repaired and painted the pedestrian bridge that spans Spring Road at Argyle Elementary School. We've also the Spring Road Bridge over the railroad tracks adjacent to Atlanta Road. We did some repairs and painting for that bridge, and that was completed in February this past year. Other bridge rehabilitation projects, we lumped 6 relatively minor projects together into one contract. These were bridge deficiencies that were identified by Georgia DOT, and so we incorporated that into a project, and you see the one image there is the bridge repairs of Vineyard Way over Nickajack Creek. The project I alluded to earlier was the Gann Road Culvert. This was actually a project we had identified going into the 2016 SPLOST, but conditions deteriorated in the field much faster. We wound up having to close down Gann Road. It's been closed down for several months now. This project is should be completed before the end of the summer, but it was a quick ramp up to get that project in. Aside from transportation, obviously we've got other areas, public safety projects, public safety improvements at in the Smyrna Police Department, where it was renovated, including a new access control system and security equipment, cameras and such within the facility at a cost of $200,000 that was completed in January of 2014. And fire, we purchased 2 new fire trucks, went into service last summer, and we just purchased and have distributed 75 body cameras. And that's right on the cutting edge. This has just gone into place. And some fire safety equipment, some additional fire safety equipment was purchased in June of 2015. For our Keep Smyrna Beautiful, they were working out of a very small trailer with a bunch of dumpsters adjacent for our recycling center. So when the opportunity came to pick up an oil vendor's building and site, we were able to take advantage of that, and that is the new Smyrna Recycling Center on Lake Drive, off of South Cobb Drive, just south of Concord Road. And it's really met with some great response. There were some concerns at the beginning about increased traffic through the neighborhood. I haven't heard that much pushback on that. I am hearing people have great experience with the new recycling center, much easier to get in and out, and I think that's been a great move forward. And as the city engineer, one of the things I get a call a whole lot about is, when are you going to resurface my street? We're just getting underway with the second portion of it. Our total budget is about $5.8 million through the duration of the SPLOST. Last summer we did over 40 streets. This summer we've just let the contract for an additional 30 streets. I don't know the mileage offhand, but all of this was based on a comprehensive conditions analysis we did of all the streets in Smyrna early last spring. We went through 7 different criteria, ranking them good, not so good, look great. and we consolidated all that down into a prioritized list. So we really are able to put the resurfacing SPLOST dollars where they'll affect the best. And finally, overall, we've spent 67%. We've got a remaining budget of 33%. And in fact, we're about 75% through overall in our projects. So this mirrors the county's overall perspective that we're ahead of the game at this point. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Great report, Eric. We appreciate the update, and especially appreciate your emphasis on the project where we're working together. So we thank you for work for that. Any questions for Eric from the board?
One quick.
Commissioner Weatherford.
The Windy Hill Road project seems very exciting to me, and I'm not sure how you're gonna do that. There's a lot of businesses that touch it. I'm assuming you worked all that out and everything.
We're actually very early in the process.
Oh, no, you haven't worked it out? And they don't know about it yet, huh?
They found out about it. I've actually been getting a whole lot of calls of, hey, I understand you're buying my business next week. Not quite. We're still several years away from that, from construction. A project this size, a lot of planning, a lot of preliminary work. We're anticipating getting through the environmental and the concept work going forward, so we may start right away, 18 months time. But what I've been telling the folks is we don't know yet. At this point, we do anticipate there'll be some acquisition on the north side, but one of those elements that we're working together with Cobb on, with the county DOT, is an incubator, if you will, so that rather than just dealing with property owners and saying, okay, here's the valuation of your property and the business needs to relocate, the county has really pushed the idea of an incubator to work with the businesses themselves. If you're familiar with that corridor, there's a lot of, I'm not going to call them marginal businesses, but they're not, they're businesses that they take a hit, like suddenly having to relocate, it could make the business go out. So we're working with them to find a place that they will have a resource. And it may even be a relocation for them, but certainly a resource that we can help these businesses find a new place, maybe pool some resources. So if you have several similar businesses, then maybe we provide a reception type of a person to help with some of the phone calls.
That's a great idea. Just don't mess with Old South Barbecue.
And I will say this, I can't take credit for the idea, it's the director.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Commissioner Ott.
Yeah, just kind of follow up. Part of this, Commissioner Weatherford, is with the connection to Macklin Road, it increased the traffic about 14,000 cars a day. And so some of these businesses, not only would they be affected by moving them, but a lot of them have become affected by the traffic overall because there's a huge amount of pass-through traffic, especially with the growth in Paulding County. So there's a lot of stuff going into it. The idea of the boulevard, basically very similar to the connector itself, where it kind of goes through, it keeps the cars away from the local traffic.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you very much.
Who's next from the, John? Thank you.
Afternoon, Chairman, Commissioners, County Manager. What you're looking at there is a picture of the new Health Department building that's called the Annex B. It used to be Juvenile Court. Prior to that, it had some other functions, and prior to that, it was a water system warehouse. So that building is the best it's ever looked in many years. Go to the next slide. We see our total budget for 2011 SPLOST was $18.1 million. The bulk of it was in the public health facilities and judicial facilities. Next slide, please. As you see in this slide, on the right-hand side, we have a lot more completed than we had originally intended. If you add those up that are currently underway, that's 129. Subtract that from the 135 total. There are only 6 that we are not working on or completed at this time. Those 6 include 3 library projects on libraries that we are not going to remain in 2016 with the SPLOST. So we're going to hold off on those and not spend the money on a building that we're not going to use or possibly tear down. 2 of those are very small health department projects. One's in Six Flags area and one is in the East Cobb area, a leased facility that we're going to spruce up the reception area. And the final one of those 6 is for a new judgeship that we anticipate for the state court building in 2016 or 17. So those 6 we are not doing at this time. All the other ones that we can do are underway. Next slide, please. This also is the Health Department Annex B. That's one of the finished rooms where the clients sit and wait. Next slide. That's a area upstairs in that annex. That's a break room for the employees. And this is the Smyrna Health Building on South Cobb Drive. This building, when we bought it back about 25 years ago, and up until just now, had wooden doors on the exterior. They were in very poor shape. They had transoms. Splost allowed us to replace those with exterior aluminum doors. Next slide. This is the former airport tower. What you see there on the left-hand side of that roof is where the tower was. The Splost from 2011 included replacing the roof on that building. What you see there is it's a standing seam metal roof, almost complete. Next slide. Now this is the inside of that building. The Splost portion is for the roof, the lighting, and the air conditioning. So we show you this slide and the next slide to show you the LED lights that we put in there. That's also that LED light, something we're using in some situations where it's cost effective. Next slide, please. This is what we have planned for the next 3 months. The Magistrate Court project, which gets very big in 2016, is in design right now in our office. The Public Safety Building HVAC replacement on the top floor, that's the jail portion, will come to you tonight for approval. The Health Department, the building we showed you, Annex B, there's some punch list items currently being completed, and the Health Headquarters construction has begun. We recently added some considerable work to that in the last Board of Commissioners agenda. On the Police Rangers building, we're replacing the air conditioning and some very minor renovations, cosmetic inside the building. And finally, tonight also you'll see an agenda item for the HVAC replacement in the DOT headquarters. These items you see, these replacements of heating and air conditioning, roofing, elevators, the things that have come from the 2011 SPLOST would not have been possible without the SPLOST. We have a very small budget to do repairs, and if it weren't for the SPLOST, our budget would not have handled them. Are there any questions?
Thank you, John. Any questions? Thank you, sir. Good report.
Thank you.
Chief Crowder.
Good afternoon, Chairman, Commissioners, Mr. Hankerson. On behalf of Public Safety, I'm going to be very brief, as we have purchased, received, and placed in service 96% of the projects in all of Public Safety, with the exception of receiving our hazmat apparatus in the month of August, which is next month. That will complete our total SPLOST projects for the 2011 SPLOST. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. This is what the hazmat truck looks like that will be going to Fire Station 22, which is located at the Precinct 2 South Cobb Government facility there on Allstill Road at Seas Road. To give you can go to the next slide. To give a recap of all the projects that Public Safety was able to complete during this SPLOST, we replaced all operator consoles, upgrade at 911. There was a repeater replaced at the county jail to enhance communications inside the jail for the safety of operations that go on in there. From the fire department, we purchased 7 fire engines, 2 ladder trucks, 5 ALS or Advanced Life Support Rescue trucks, 2 air trucks, the aforementioned Hazmat 22 truck. We replaced all of our thermal imaging cameras. We replaced our vehicle extrication equipment, manual defibrillators, apparatus jacks for our vehicle maintenance division, and then we had various facility repairs conducted at some of our fire stations, which include some paving, sprinklers, roofs, bay doors, etc. And then for the police department, we had the purchase of the patrol rifles. That concludes the report for Public Safety. Any questions?
Thank you, sir. Any questions for the chief? Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Mr. Cannon, you're not gonna go through this whole report, are you?
Yeah, I am. Good afternoon,
So-
Chairman,
so-
Commissioners, County Manager.
So
No,
in
sir, I won't be
conclusion-
doing that.
We have to go to a meeting.
Yeah, I know,
You just keep going though, buddy.
Okay.
We'll watch it on TV.
All right, this slide you've seen before. This is how our dollars were broke up amongst our projects. The next slide shows you completed projects, construction underway, design engineering, and future projects. One thing I do want to say on that right there, when we're finished, we're going to do 172 projects in 50 parks. That's pretty amazing. We're going to have a brand new system, which is exciting for everyone. This is the map that shows where all our projects are and if they're completed and where they are in the process. Our goal is to get all those dots red. We're getting there. Next, we're going to talk about some projects actually underway. This is the rebuild of 2 tennis centers at Sweetwater and Fair Oaks Tennis Center. Sweetwater, we actually went and the tennis center there was located in a floodplain area that floods from time to time. We've moved that to the top of the hill and reconstruct that building. And then the one at Fair Oaks is just a replacement of the existing building. Next is at Fair Oaks also. We did field renovation. We actually put a new roof on the recreation center. We've redid the maintenance and restroom building, both buildings in the park there. Next is Terrell Mill Park. I'm happy to say that this is the last 2 projects at Terrell Mill Park. Terrell Mill Park is pretty much brand new. This is a restroom concession building at the top and a maintenance building at the bottom. We will come back in the late fall, early winter and do a tree planting in that park, and that should get that park back to where it needs to be. So a lot of great improvements at Terrell Mill. Civic Center, this project is underway. If you've gone by there, looks like a bomb went off. The top picture shows you water issues that's inside the building that we will be replacing, and then the bottom picture shows you outside on the plaza area. The front facade is gone, and there'll be a new front that will take its place. We will have a pre-function space there. There'll be meeting rooms. There'll be a new catering kitchen there. Whole new operation at the Civic Center. The next picture shows you a rendering of what the front will look like. As you walk up onto the plaza, there'll be a new glass front. As you walk in now, you go down the steps. Those steps are being moved to the side, so there's more room in the lobby area. There'll be a pre-function space there, plus there'll be rooms to the right as you walk in that will actually be connected to the theater through a covered walkway. So it'll give us a lot of pre-function space for both areas. Next is Sweat Mountain Park. This is our last really park total renovation. It will renovate the ball fields along with some tennis court renovations and also the dog park. This is the drawing of what Sweat Mountain will look like when it's all said and done. Next is Noonday Creek Park, the park office district. This was a ranch house building that had been in the early 60s when it was built. It's needed to be replaced. It will be replaced with an office building that will also have a community meeting room also in it. That will be, we'll be able to close off our offices, and that will be available for night and for the public to use. Next is our picture of our ribbon cutting at Seven Springs Water Park. It's a great picture of everyone. I appreciate everybody being there that day. And next, it shows some more pictures of the water park. I'd like to tell you in the month of June, paying customers through there, 26,000. That's amazing. That facility is by far the highlight of our summer. It's kind of taken us to a new level and really a great, great facility for the community. Coming up, we have starts on the core property bridge, Perry Parham building, Noonday office building, Big Shanty renovation, Miller Park restrooms, the arena side and down at the campground, Sweat Mountain renovation, and Jenny T. Anderson roof. I do want to talk a little bit about Miller Park. We're at the stage where construction is stopping again, and we're getting ready for our big event in September, the fair. So you will see asphalt going down in the next week, and we will be ready for the fair once it comes to town. So with that, that's my report. I'll answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Cannon. Any questions?
All right, quick one.
Yes,
On
sir.
the Civic Center, when I was visiting that, when you talked about water replacement, did we find the budget to replace all the water pipes? Because not just the ones that we originally were going to do?
Yes, sir. We did. We're good.
Because, good, thank you. That's-
Yes, sir.
The water can come in, it just can't go out.
Exactly.
Yeah, once they tore into the building at Civic Center, there was a lot of things that we saw that we needed to replace, and so we've been able to take care of a lot of those.
Right.
So,
Look forward to it.
okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Director DeMassimo, Transportation.
I know you've seen the slide in the past. The majority of our SPLOST program in the 2011 SPLOST is dedicated to infrastructure preservation. And in particular, we're going to talk a little bit later in the presentation about the resurfacing accomplishments that we've had. That's one of the ones that we're most proud of in this program. So we have about 204 transportation projects. You can see about 60% of our projects have been completed, 25% are in design engineering in progress, and then 15% with construction in progress. Currently, there are 51 projects in pre-construction, 31 projects in construction, and as of June 30th, 2015, we've completed 122 projects. So a few project highlights for this presentation. First one is Pine Mountain Road. We've got safety and operational improvements from Stylesboro to Schillings Road. We're widening the travel lanes, addition of curb and gutter and sidewalks, and addition of turn lanes at key intersections. It's about a $3.9 million project and is scheduled to be completed next summer. Cooper Lake Road at King Springs Road, intersection improvements including safety and operational improvements, pedestrian access, drainage improvements. You see it's about a $360,000 project and is scheduled for completion this fall. Six Flags Parkway at Lee Industrial Boulevard, safety and operational intersection improvements including turn lane additions and a traffic signal addition. This is about a $1.6 million project that's substantially complete. Post Oak Tritt Road at Hightower Middle School, safety and operational school zone improvement projects. It includes an addition of a right turn lane on Post Oak Tritt into the school, the construction of a new driveway into the school, parking lot resurfacing and restriping. It's about a $540,000 project. The notice to proceed for construction was issued in May of 2015, and it is scheduled for construction this next month. Spring Hill Parkway at Teasley Elementary School, safety and operational school zone improvement project. You see we've got several of those to report to you during this quarterly report, and we try to undertake many of these during the months that school is out. Safety and operational school zone improvement that includes the addition of a left turn lane on Spring Hill Parkway northbound into Teasley Elementary School, the installation of 2 new mast armed school flashing beacons. It's about a $237,000, a little bit more than that project. Notice to proceed for construction was in June of 2015, and it is scheduled for construction August of 2015. Again, another one of those projects we try to get them started up as soon as school lets out and have them completed before school commences again. So again, one of the things that I mentioned earlier is this is one of our, I think our proudest accomplishments is the infrastructure preservation category of the 2011 SPLOST. So 2011 SPLOST resurfacing through June of 2015, we've bid 16 contracts valued at $84.9 million, 1,311 roads, 413 miles. Resurfacing contracts awarded since October of 2011 that includes 3 2005 SPLOST contracts as well, 18 contracts valued at $96.6 million, 1,515 roads and 477 miles. An incredible accomplishment. Next quarter planned activities, we've got about 15 projects that will be completed in the next quarter, 4 sidewalk projects, 4 drainage projects, 4 intersection projects, a resurfacing project, and 2 school zone projects, 10 construction starts that include drainage project, sidewalk, roadway, and intersection, and then 2 design engineering starts for a drainage and a sidewalk project. With that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Director. Any questions? The Director, thank you. Let me reiterate just to staff how much I know the board appreciates everything y'all have done to make sure that these programs move forward aggressively, on time and on budget, and the support teams behind you to help make this happen. for the last 4 years, 3.5 years, you all have worked hard to deliver this program. And I'm still am very, very grateful for the hard work that y'all did to make sure that we stay in front of in front of the region, I think, in terms of taking care of our infrastructure and our quality of life issues in the parks, recs, and everything associated with it. And I want to thank staff for keeping on top of that. You do a lot of work in your planning, your capital improvement planning, your 5-year planning to make sure that we're ahead of the curve. And I think it's also, and I believe it to be true, that because of what staff has done to deliver this BLOST is why we were successful in asking the citizens to approve the second SPLOST last November for 6 years, and they did that by a larger margin than they have in the past 2 SPLOST. So kudos to staff and the teams that support you and the leadership and everything to make it happen. And I don't know if we have any folks here from the Citizens Oversight Committee that help make sure we keep between the lines, but I want to shout out to them for their work as well that they do to help monitor and manage this program. You guys are doing a heck of a job, and I appreciate everything, because as we deliver these programs and deliver these projects, not only Cobb County residents, but Cobb County visitors are proud to call Cobb home, and we're appreciative of this work on our infrastructure. With that, it goes to tab 4. It's a finance tab. Brought forward by the county manager, and to provide an update to the streetlight program and information regarding the district fund. Mr. County Manager.
Mr. Chairman and Board, is a brief history. In November of 2014, the board authorized a rate increase from $3.50 to $4 because of shortage in the streetlight fund, which is an enterprise fund, supposed to be self-supportive. But with that approval, you asked that we conduct an analysis of the streetlight fund, working with our providers. That's one that you asked that I take the lead in which I did. I met with Chuck Hunt and Jeff Burns and all of the streetlight providers to look at the program, which you know that our electricity and our lights is the biggest part of that budget. What we found was that due to the age of that program, there are all type lights out there. The new wave is going to be looking at LEDs and looking at some audits, which the true saving is going to come. We may be coming back with some recommendation as we go into our new developments, looking at LEDs to get started somewhere where the true savings and probably a rate differential. But all 3 firms met with us, and there's very little they can do at this time because of the hodgepodge and all the different type lights that they've got in the system. But they committed to trying to keep the price down and keep things controlled. With that, I'm on a lot of presentation to go for. Bill Boatman is going to do the presentation. But Jeff Burns and Chuck Hunt, which is our energy guy in property that guides us on energy conservation, and a lot of our buildings, was at the table with us, former Georgia Power employee. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'll open it up and turn it over to Bill Boatman, and then we'll field any questions the board may have.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chairman, Commissioners. I'm going to give you a brief history of the Streetlight District Fund. In 79, the fund was created, and this was to account for all streetlight district activity. This would include intersections, underpasses, and tunnels, which we now report into our general fund. And in 2011, we created a special revenue fund to separately account for the streetlight districts, and that would be our primarily residential neighborhoods. And during that time, we had maintained a rate of $3.50, and our last rate increase was in 1987. So in January 1 of 2015, we came before the board and asked for a rate increase up to $4 to account for the increase in the electricity costs. Next slide, please. And this is just a quick graph of our providers, and in fiscal year 2013, we saw a 16% rate increase from Cobb EMC, which is our largest provider of electricity. Next slide, please. And then this is a brief overview of the history of this special revenue fund. As I said, in 2011, this fund was created to account for the residential component of the Streetlight District program. And during that time, we had a increase of $84,000 to this fund as we were continuing to do an audit to transfer all streetlights to the appropriate fund. And then in 2012, we had a very similar increase of $88,000. But in 2013, with the rate increase from CalBMC and a final account of all of our streetlights, we then had our first year of a net loss of $121,000. And just like in 2013 and 2014, we also had a similar net loss. So at that time, we came before the board and asked for a rate increase and committed to you to continue to look at this. And during the rate increase, we also asked that this fund set aside a 10% reserve that we would build or begin to work towards, so that if there was a rate increase, it could be absorbed within the fund and we wouldn't immediately have to come back and evaluate the rates. Next slide, please. With that being said, this is our projection, and we worked very closely with DOT to account for these numbers. And the fiscal year 15, we do see an increase of revenues as we expected with the rate increase. With that being said, we are going to generate a net income of $350,000. Now that is going to get us closer to our goal of a targeted reserve of $600,000. So at this year, we hope to finish, despite having a very successful year with the Streetlight District Fund, we will be under our goal of a 10% reserve by $254,900. And we continue that projection through 2019, and based on our projections in 2016, we will achieve our goal of $600,000. Now we are projecting a 4% rate increase of utility cost each year going forward. So this is a very key component of this, so we want to commit to you to continue to evaluate this fund, and once we achieve our goal, once we achieve our goal of the $600,000 reserve, we would come back before the board and evaluate the rates again. But obviously this is subject to change based on the utility costs that this fund incurs, being that they are over 90+% of this fund's costs. Okay, next slide. And then with that, any questions?
Thank you. Any questions for Bill? Thank you. Bill. Actually, it's a question for County Manager, so thank you.
Okay.
Mr.
Thanks,
County
sir.
Manager, are we to hear from another person?
No, he's here for my backup.
Okay.
Bodyguard? Jeff Burns, he's our streetlight administrator.
Okay. In the past,
Yes, sir.
recently, we've had commissioners question what the next steps are once we have received a presentation during work session, that if we don't comment or don't discuss it, or we just basically say thank you, that it's not clear what our direction is.
Okay.
And it says in our agenda book that you seek direction regarding a fee adjustment. So I'm assuming there's some action you'd like taken verbally, consensual, or through consent, but also given this board's recent history of perhaps not being consistent in some of our direction, I would recommend that you bring forward an agenda item at the time you think appropriate to set the fee at $4 for this board to approve at a future date, in light of the recommendation you're making through this report today.
Yes, sir, and we were directed at the time, or asked that we bring this presentation so that it would be all considered as a part of the budget. And it would be very appropriate if we bring an agenda item with recommendation, and certainly I will take input from the board in between then and now. But I would suggest that we bring an agenda item on the next agenda for timing of budget preparation.
That'd be great. Commissioner Burrow, you have a comment?
Can you email this to us so that we can look at the individual slides with the numbers?
Yes, ma'am, we'll do that
Thank
for you.
Thank you. Good report, Mr. Ankerson. Any other comments or questions? Thank you, sir. That concludes our work session, does it not, Mr. Hankerson? Yes, sir. Thank you. We're adjourned till 7 tonight. Thank you.